Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, as you guys know, I'm sure. If you would please stand or at least place your hand over your heart for the playing of the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, now the Pledge of Allegiance by John Wayne.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's get this party started, folks.
Things are better left unknown, and I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner. Is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner. Is it in her? What a sinner. Is it in her? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Coming to you from a secret cave, hidden deep within the wilderness. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we are broadcasting live from a secret cave hidden deep within the wilderness of Tennessee. That's right. We're ripping through the electromagnetic soup. We're tearing through the atmosphere, and we're tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the Dark Wolf's Den radio show for Thursday, January the 6th, 2022. I got it right that time. Aha! So whether you're on the edge of a reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are going to dive down into the deep rabbit hole that is the paranormal state of mystery of Nebraska. That's right, from cryptid creatures to crazy ghosts and everything in between. We're going to dig deep into the woo here in just a moment, but first, let's go ahead and see who all we have here in our YouTube chat rooms, both on the RipinRabbitHole.com as well as the Dark Wolf's Den Show. How you guys doing over here tonight? It is excellent to see every last one of you guys. Of course, always an absolute pleasure. Like Sandy B at the top of the list over in the Ripon Rabbit Hole saying hello, DWD people. Glad to see you, Sandy B. Always a pleasure for sure. Who else do we have over here tonight? Let's see here. JoJo's waving in. So, JoJo's, I know you were over in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat. If anyone else is actually over here in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat, I don't really think there are, because YouTube was telling me that it was live. But for some reason, when I went to grab the link, it was not live. Leave it to YouTube to lie, right? Surely not. YouTube don't lie. No, it's the most honest platform there is. And if you'll buy that. But yeah, we finally got it going over here. I refreshed the page. It asked me to hit the go live button again. Then I went and checked, and it's finally running, guys. So if you're wondering what happened over there, well, you know, YouTube happened over there. That's the way it rolls with these guys. I guess they don't like when you call them out for what they are. But JoJo's waving in over here in the Ripon Rabbit Hole channel. Prairie Fire waving in, says, greetings, people. Greetings, Prairie. Glad to have you over here. Errol Taylor, repent, pray, fight all evil. I agree, and I would also add to that, lather, rinse, repeat. Let's go, Brandon. She says, FJB and the legs in the air Harris that he took a ride in on. He probably was one of many in line. Catherine M says, hi, all. Hi, Catherine. Glad to have you here. Raider Champion, dropping that link in there of the Wonderland. Glad to have you guys all here so far. Who else we have here? Earth Daughter in the house. Glad to see you, Earth Daughter. Catherine Mandani Mall. Glad to see you, Mandani Mall. Always a pleasure. With Alva Yarder coming in saying good evening, everyone. Good evening, Alva Yarder. And who we have here but the Rippin' Rabbit himself, Mr. AJ. Glad to see you, AJ. And if we do have issues, guys, you can always find us streaming live when we are live over on the RipinRabbitHole.com. Don't forget, if we ever go down on YouTube or have an issue with YouTube, you can always check us out on our home site, the RipinRabbitHole.com, RIPONRABBITHOLE. That's right. Whiskasker, hello. Glad to have you over here in the Dark Wolf's Den Show chat. Always glad to see new faces indeed. How are you guys doing with weather around the area there? I know we're sitting with 6 inches of snow at a nice warm 17 degrees here. I think Prairie Fire said where they're at is a balmy negative 54 degrees Fahrenheit. That is definitely a little more balmy than it is here for sure. I guess you only get so cold before it turns around and becomes hot, right? I know we had a massive snow here. 52 says AJ over in Nevada. Glad to see you're a little warmer than we're doing over here in the South. I'm telling you guys, when I left the South 4 years ago, we didn't get snow like this. It didn't start till after I left, and now I am just amazed at the amount of snow that we have here. And on cold nights like this, it's always great to hang out with all of you guys. Feels like -4, real temp 5 degrees in Chicago, says Sandy B. So great to see all of you guys here with us tonight. And I do apologize for last night's show. It seems the thing tried to go off the rails a number of times. We had quite a few little rookie incidents and mistakes in there, so perhaps we can do just a little better this time, right? At least we're going to try. And of course, whether you are listening on YouTube and in the chat rooms or worldwide on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole, or from our flagship station in Ripon, Wisconsin, we're glad to have every last one of you guys along for the ride. That's right. And speaking of ride, we're going to take a wild ride here in just a moment, but first, we have 2 more fun little segments to do, the first of which we call Today in History. On this day in 1912, New Mexico, a state that we are about 4 states away from in our series here, becomes the 47th state of the Union. That's right, New Mexico joined the United States on this day in 1912, and that is today's segment of Today in History.
Say what?
Our quote of the day today, ladies and gentlemen, comes from an unknown source, and unknown says a lot, don't they? This time they said, if you try to fail and succeed, which one have you done? And if I think about that much longer, that is going to make my head hurt. So that is today's segment of
Say what?
Well, last night it looks like we succeeded in failing a couple times throughout the episode. Let's hope that we don't have that issue tonight, right, guys? Hopefully we've got past some of those rookie mistakes. But, ladies and gentlemen, the state of Nebraska, of course, we think about that. We think about open cornfields and, not a whole lot going on. And lucky for us, there's a lot more going on than I thought it was, ladies and gentlemen. Last night we talked about some sea serpents over in Montana. Well, Nebraska has its own sea serpent, too. It is called the Alkali Lake Monster.
The Alkali Lake Monster is a gargantuan, horned, alligator-like beast that is reputed to lurk in the depths of Nebraska's famed Alkali Lake.
Okay, it's spelled alkali, but I'll go with Alkali. So Alkali Lake. My apologies for anyone in Nebraska that may be listening to this episode. I'll try to pronounce it right from here out. Alkali Lake.
The monster was claimed to be approximately 40 feet long with rough, grayish-brown skin. Alkali Lake, known now as Walgren Lake, is an 80 to 100 acre body of water located in the Sand Hills area of northwestern Nebraska. The lake is also the reputed home of the Alkali Lake Monster, which is described as a 40-foot long alligator-like creature with rough grayish-brown skin and a horn-like appendage located between its eyes and nostrils.
And like last night's monster that was said to be somewhere between 20 and 40 feet, this sea creature is almost exactly the same length, right? It's got the grayish, leathery colored grayish skin. And it has a horn on top of its head, which we know is not uncommon for some of these creatures. Once again, it could be a different variation of the sea creatures that we see all the time.
Reports of the Alkali Lake monster started in August of 1921, and the first written account of the monster appeared in a 1922 printing of the Hay Springs News. A second written report appeared in a 1923 printing of the Omaha World Herald.
So this started appearing exactly 100 years ago, back in the 1920s, early 1920s at that is. We are in 2022. The first written up report of this creature in the newspaper was in 1922. So we've definitely at least come year round to that one, right? But these are really old reports, and they seem pretty consistent over those couple of years too.
According to this report, a man named J.A. Johnson claimed that he and two friends saw the creature while camping on the shores of Alkali Lake. The three men reported that they saw the creature from a distance of 60 feet and stated that it looked a lot like an alligator, complete with a rhinoceros-like horn. They claimed that when the creature noticed them, it began to violently thrash its tail and disappeared beneath the churning surface.
Which, biologically speaking, seems like a natural reaction of a creature to try to employ a scare tactic or a defense tactic of some kind, right? This time using the tail to smack the water in an effort to scare the people.
Some researchers of the Alkali Lake monster have suggested evidence that the creature was nothing more than a hoax. They state that at the time stories of the creature first appeared, the Hay Springs News employed a man by the name of John J. Maher, who reportedly had a flair for all tales and hoaxes. One such trick he and his accomplices perpetuated was the planting of a concrete cast in the local Badlands, where it was later discovered and named Petrified Man. Maha was a corresponding reporter for many newspapers at the time, some of which were ran by editors who were only interested in boosting circulation by printing sensational stories.
And once again, we do know that there were some very unscrupulous journalists and editors back in the day, and not that they've gotten any better today if you try to read these headlines and propaganda machines that are out there. But anyway, that aside, I could go off for hours just about the propaganda machine, but in all seriousness, there was a bit of a paranormal propaganda machine in the late 18 and early 1900s, as some places would make up these stories as just attempts to increase tourship in their area, right? So tourism, things like that, try to get more and more people to come to their area. So what do you guys think? Do you think this creature was an absolutely real sea monster from the 1920s? Go ahead and put a 1 in the chat room if that's what you believe. Go ahead and put a 2 in the chat room if you think, nope, it was just yet another way to drum up business, another paranormal hoax. And put a 3 in the chat room if you think you're not quite sure, either way, kind of on the fence. Could be real, but not sure. And while we're waiting on those to come in, we've got a vampire in Nebraska. Check this out. This is from Mysterious Universe, as an article by Dale Beacon, the assistant curator of the Nebraska State Historical Society, claims that Nebraska cowboys encountered a vampire in the late 1890s. And with a guy named Bacon, who can't trust that, right? I'm kidding. In 1895, around Pine Ridge, Nebraska, ranch hands, cattle, and wildlife were reportedly attacked by a madman. Ranch hands witnessed this man chase down cattle, wrestle them to the ground, and ripped the bovine's throat with his hands and teeth. The man would then lap, quote, the blood of his victim the way a dog laps water, end quote. A cowboy named Jack Lewis ran into this man people now call a vampire. Alone in the darkness one night, the vampire attacked Lewis. However, Lewis was able to pull his gun and fire 2 shots. The vampire ran into the night, and Lewis and other ranch hands chased him on horseback. They never found him. Back at the camp, the hands tended Lewis's wounds, which were teeth and claw marks on his face and neck. And that's all there is to that story. But definitely very, very creepy story of vampires in the 1800s. Then again, crazy and paranormal go back a long time. Turns out there may also be some phantom kangaroos in Nebraska. Check this out. In 1958 in Grand Island, Nebraska, businessman Charles V. Wetzel was fishing on the Platte River about 8 miles outside of town when he saw something that should not have been there. According to a 28 July 1958 Associated Press story, Wetzel thought he saw a deer until it moved, bounding away on enormous back legs in 10-foot leaps. He'd seen a kangaroo about 8,000 miles away from its home in Australia. Kangaroos have been seen worldwide in areas without native population since the 1830s. And since the only native population of kangaroos is in Australia, these encounters are largely a mystery. Sightings stretch across North America, France, the UK, Japan, and even Poland. Although in some countries like Poland, escaped kangaroos have formed colonies, they can't account for all the sightings of these bounding marsupials that are so very far away from home. So perhaps Nebraska's had a couple kangaroos escape from the zoos, right? Definitely an intriguing creature. Speaking of intriguing, let's see what you guys had to say about that first intriguing case file. Is the sea monster of Nebraska, the Alkali lake monster. I think I said it right that time. Is that a real creature? Go ahead, put a 1 in the chat room if you think that's a 100% real creature. Put a 2 in the chat room if you think it's yet another yellow journalism hoax, and put a 3 in the chat room if you're just not sure. Let's see what you guys had to say. I'm actually kind of surprised about the numbers over here right now. Earth Daughter checking in with a 3, maybe? Really not entirely sure. Possibly a 3. Mandani Mall says 3. Absolutely a hoax. Sandy B says 3. I think, or unsure. I'm sorry. 3 is unsure. My bad, folks. I'm on a rhyming spree tonight. Can you tell? Mandani Mall with a 3. I'm sorry. Not sure. Earth Daughter not sure that she's not even not sure if she's unsure. Sandy B says 3. I think Sandy B unsure if she's unsure. Errol Taylor with the 3. Prairie Fire with the 3. Catherine M with the 3. Kind of a across the board over here in the Ripon rabbit hole. Everybody agrees with the 3s. Not quite sure what to believe on that. 22222 says JoJo's across the board. Hoax all the way. 100% hoax, she says. My Life DIY with the 3s. Not quite sure. It looks like another hoax by old Three Toe, definitely, says Dark Horse. Glad to see you, Dark Horse 108. And our buddy Deranged Lunatic, a.k.a. DL. Glad to see both you guys hanging out over here. Deranged Lunatic says 2. It is a hoax, in his opinion. Man, Daddy Mall coming back over here in the Ripon Rabbit Hole chat says probably 1. Believe in a lake cryptids. You know, there have been a lot of stories of these things, and a lot of the stories match up, so I'm going to be with you here. I'm kind of on the fence on this one, as I try to stay to be with most, but there are a large amount of water cryptids out there that all seem to have this eel-like 40-foot length. A lot of independent case files we went over in these different states that could have them real, but you never know. That's the great thing about these topics and discussions. You never quite know, especially with the kangaroo. That one was really interesting. Man, Danny Mall says there are many private zoo escapees, and there are. I'll give you that. There are animals in areas that there definitely should not be animals in. I remember one time, this wasn't an escapee, but I was driving down the road here in my local city, and there was a camel one day in a parking lot, just on the side of the road. Turns out it was a little traveling circus thing. I didn't know it. But, yeah, a camel. There's something that's just way out of place in Tennessee. Something you don't see every day, especially on the side of the road. AJ the Ripon Rabbit coming in also with the 3. And before we head out to break here, we have one more creature to go over. A creature that you really would not expect to see in Nebraska, but I have said time and time again, there's one of these in every single state. That creature I'm speaking of course, is Bigfoot. And in Nebraska, you have a set of Native Americans who are tracking Bigfoot. Check this out, folks.
For two brothers from Macy, Nebraska, and the Omaha tribe, the quest to find Bigfoot is real. Barry and his brother Derek have set out to explore the unknown, originally based off a dare.
My son challenged us. He said, Dad, let's go out there. The community's seeing it, and, there's a lot of reports, So it's kind of a father-son challenge, and we went out, told my brother Derek about it, and he was game, and that's kind of what kicked it off for us, that particular night.
So this all started on a bet. This was just a son telling his father, hey, I bet you will find something if you go out looking, because everyone is reporting this thing. There's clearly something here. You've got to check this out. So the father and the father's brother decided to start hunting and have become regular squatchers ever since then. And I've been trying to get a squatcher on this show for a while, but it's been hard getting in communication with the person. But I have been trying to get someone lined up for almost 2 years now. One person that I've known that is a professional squatcher. So I'll try once again to get in contact with him. That's the reason we haven't done a full Bigfoot show yet. But let's hear some more about these Nebraska squatchers.
For the Omaha people, the creature has been intertwined with their history for generations.
But they don't call him Bigfoot or Sasquatch like we do. They have their own name for this creature.
We'd prefer you guys to call him Situnga.
So the Omaha Native American tribes would prefer that we call Bigfoot Situnga. Can you say Situnga, Bubby?
Situnga.
Situnga, that's right. That's the Native American name for Bigfoot.
Situnga, which means Bigfoot in our language. Rough skin, deep sunken eyes, obviously. The kind of the short nose. The shoulders are real wide, long arms.
So far, the description sounds like the regular Bigfoot that we have all heard about. But hey, Bubby, this one has a bit of a different mouth than the rest of them. Have you ever seen a Bigfoot, Bubby?
Yeah.
You have? Where you see a Bigfoot?
I was at Mimi's house.
You were at Mimi's house and you seen a Bigfoot?
Uh-huh.
A big hairy creature?
Uh-huh.
I think that might have been Papa.
I haven't met anybody, and I've listened to a lot of people describe it this way. Their mouth is always open, and they have 2 canines on the side here.
So this Bigfoot has very much different mouth than the ones we normally have heard about. Hey, Bubby, those creatures that have like the teeth that come up over the lip? Yeah? Like that? Yeah, this Bigfoot has teeth coming out the bottom of its jaw. They come up over the lip outside of the mouth. What does it mean? It means that's something that most people don't usually report when they see a Bigfoot. This is a different type of Bigfoot than most people see. And then see, it's got the color around the lips. That might not mean that the mouth is open all the time. That might be the color of the lips, right? Might just be an illusion that the mouth is open. You think so, Bubby? You think so? Yes or no? Say yes or no.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Yeah, they can't hear your head shaking. You got to say something. But this Bigfoot creature here is definitely a little different than most Bigfoot creatures. Do what, Bubby?
I wondered it.
No, I'm not going to be shaking my head. I'm going to be talking.
There's folklore, there's stories that were handed down generations about Sitanga. A lot of times we were told to leave them alone because our ancestors didn't understand them. So they didn't want anybody to mess with them because they didn't understand.
Society has kind of, in my opinion, made somewhat of a mockery of it. And so for us, it took us a long time to really come to the conclusion that we wanted to share, and especially based on how we approach it, from a respectful, spiritual kind of way.
I love that they have taken more of a spiritual take on this, showing respect to the creature instead of just trying to hunt it down like any regular game hunter would be. They're more doing a evidential search than they are a creature search, right? Definitely very intriguing, and they have found some very intriguing evidence to boot.
As the Webster brothers formed a connection with Sitanga, they also formed a deeper connection with their native roots.
As we went along, we consulted and talked with elders, and it basically, I don't want to say forced, but it kind of was the right thing to do, was to learn our language. I've learned and started to really study and use my language now. I've learned things that I don't think I ever would have learned if I didn't start doing this.
So for him, it's also had a very, very family-oriented connection as far as learning his traditional Native American roots. But I mentioned a moment ago, there is a lot of evidence, and most of the evidence is in the working of the trees.
Yeah.
As you can see right here, this is kind of classic activity here. Every time there's an arch, and it's always pinned down on the end by another tree. Coincidence or squatch activity? I
don't know about you guys, but I know I've went walking in the woods a lot, and I've seen these trees that are arched over with one tree holding it at one end or the other or both. I never really thought much about it, but upon retrospect, I could definitely see how this could be a Sasquatch type event.
Here's something that we came across maybe actually a few years ago now, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. In the Bigfoot world, it's called an asterisk. It's another one of their signs of some of their activity and the things they do out here in the timber.
And the asterisk, it almost looks like something right out of the Blair Witch Project. A bunch of trees that have all been kind of stacked together in such a way as the ends of them are all coming out different directions, kind of like an asterisk star. Isn't that what that kind of looks like a star of trees? Uh-huh, isn't that cool?
We got a little saying, you got to have grit. When you put yourself out there, there's going to be critics. And we understand that wholeheartedly. We ask everybody to keep an open mind.
And keeping an open mind is definitely good advice for sure, especially when it comes to Bigfoots or any of the other cryptids across the state of Nebraska, or any other state for that matter, right? But that music means we have to go ahead and take a network break right here. So my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as The Dark Wolf, and you're listening to the Dark Wolf's Den radio show exclusively on Ripon, Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. We'll be right back with the second half after these messages. Stick around. Don't touch that dial. That's right.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Oh yeah, howling with Jerry Hicks on a Thursday night. Hi everyone, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit. Are you enjoying tonight's State of Mystery for Nebraska? I know I am. If you are and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up your video. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. We're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best of common sense radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. I'll return again tomorrow, Friday, January 7th. Come along with me as I dive down the rabbit hole, deep down through the rabbit hole, of the world's largest consumer electronics no-show. That's right, CES, a huge flop this year. I'm going to tell you exactly what that means to you and I, and why we should care whether or not CES was a big deal or not. Join me tomorrow night starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and we'll explore the talking points associated with the 2022 Consumer Electronics No-Show. Then Saturday night, January 8th, join me for an evening of discussion about mathematical errors. If somebody tells you 1 + 1 = 3, we're going to find out just exactly how we can prove that the math is error, a mathematical error. Math Errors, Saturday, January 8th, 2022. Starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as all shows do. And then we'll end out the weekend right together with you Sunday night, backmasking. Come along with me as we dive deep down the rabbit hole and explore the fascinating world of backmasking. We're going to listen to some incredible examples. We're going to talk about how it's used in propaganda today, as well as the music of yesterday, and perhaps a psychological reverse of what is sometimes being said subconsciously backwards at the same time somebody is speaking consciously forward. It's going to be an incredible journey down the rabbit hole with you Sunday, January 9th, to end out the weekend right together with you. If you haven't done so already, I don't know what you're waiting for. Hop on over to riponrabbithole.com. Sign up for your exclusive Backstage VIP pass. Get unfiltered access down the rabbit hole to where the conversation continues after the show. Speaking of shows, we'll return back to the Dark Wolf's Den radio show for tonight's topic, State of Mystery, Nebraska. Back to your host, Jerry Hicks. You're listening to the Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den radio show for Thursday, January the 6th, 2022. There we go. Want to keep making sure I get that number right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us tonight, we have been discussing the state of Nebraska and the many cryptids that lie within, but they're not the only strange and paranormal things that lie in the state of Nebraska. Of course not. We also have the ghosts of Nebraska. Let's see what we have on the list for them tonight. I'm sure we're going to have at least one haunted college, right? That's almost a guarantee on this show.
Wayne State College.
And looks like we're starting out with the college this week. Gotta love that.
Wayne State College in Wayne was founded in 1910 and is said to be haunted by multiple apparitions in various buildings. A girl named Cora is said to have committed suicide in the basement of the dorms, and to this day many report cold spots, the feeling of hands gently touching shoulders, and her full-bodied apparition.
So definitely a person that was in an incredibly high emotional state in order to make such a decision as that. So definitely a good recipe for a haunting. This seems to be more of an active haunting though, which I haven't really put the stats together. Maybe we'll have to start looking closer and seeing if the different ways of death, opposed to just the high trauma, high emotion factor, actually leads to different outcomes of the hauntings, like the cold spots, right?
The ghost of a little girl who is said to have died by accidental electrocution is seen chasing the very same ball that led to her demise through the tunnel between the dorms.
Now this sounds more like a stone tape right here, right? A replay over and over of the same event, these same final moments chasing this ball down the hallway.
Lastly, the theater is said to be haunted by a mischievous poltergeist who has been known to cause lights to flicker, chairs to move on their own, and even objects to float through the air.
So quite an eclectic mix of ghosts here, from very, very active and even poltergeist form to very calm and even just stone tape repetition. So once again, it intrigues me the different types of hauntings there are, especially when you have all these different types in one place. It makes you wonder what is triggering the differential between these types of hauntings. Like our next story, going from a haunted college and keeping the culture with a haunted opera house. Excuse a little bit of noise behind me as my grandkids, you heard one of them earlier hanging out with me, have had a friend come over.
The Clarkson Opera House. The Clarkson Opera House in Clarkson was built in 1915 and has stood through historic events, hosted movies, plays, community events, dances, and much more. Staff and visitors throughout the years report a wide range of paranormal happenings throughout the old building, including ghostly laughter, extreme cold spots even on hot days, and odd tapping sounds coming from around corners and just out of sight.
Now, there is another pattern I have been able to identify here. I just thought about this. The cold spots we only hear with active hauntings, right? It's usually combined with a noise or a movement, a touch, a sound, something like that. The cold spots tend to indicate active haunting opposed to stone tape. You don't ever have a cold spot in the stone tape hauntings, at least not that I've noticed. Very interesting pattern in those hauntings for sure.
Many have tried to identify the presence stalking this old building and have failed, perhaps with good reason. More recent sightings detail multiple varying full-bodied apparitions in clothing from different eras, leading local legend to speculate that the theater may be drawing spirits through another means or connection.
Perhaps the opera house isn't really haunted at all. Perhaps it is a place where the veil between the worlds is very thin, a portal, if you will, between realities. That would make a little bit more sense anyway as to why you have such a variety of spirits and spiritual or odd paranormal activity, depending how you'd want to classify it, right? Either way, there's definitely something strange going on at the opera, possibly a phantom, right? A phantom issue, that's for sure, whether it's ghosts or portal or, who knows what. Speculation can run rampant, but right now we've got a phantom trigger to a ghostly activity, and let's see what else is held within the states of Nebraska. What other kind of ghosts do we have in Nebraska?
The Wheat Growers Hotel. The Wheat Growers Hotel in Kimball was built in 1918 and is surrounded by an interesting story, fascinating history, and terrifying paranormal activity. During Prohibition, a tunnel was constructed connecting the kitchen to a nearby speakeasy. As local legend goes, a young woman was accidentally locked in the tunnel between a long dry stint, eventually succumbing to thirst and hunger in the depths below the building. Her ghost is said to remain, showing up in reflections throughout the hotel, jumping from closets and doing other startling things that one could only describe as horrifying.
And once again, you have the high trauma, high emotion recipe here. Somebody who basically starved to death, or at least without water, dehydrated. Either way, it was not a pleasant thing. So it seems to me that this one is very, very active. Very highly traumatic. So maybe there is a connection there, of course, and many researchers have considered this idea that the higher the trauma emotion level, the more active the haunting. And this one seems to be quite active in mirrors and all sorts of different spooky ways.
Her goal seems to be keeping guests away. If you want to see the spooky specter, she is most often seen staring at passerbys from the top story windows.
And normally that is a trait of a caretaker spirit, though clearly not in this case, of course, but generally speaking, the one staring out the window tends to be the one that just watches over the property and caretakes it, but I highly doubt that that's what this spirit would be. I could see the scare element here in keeping people away, and perhaps that's the case. Perhaps she's trying to warn people that the area was bad, at least for her, right? Definitely an interesting one. If you guys are interested in doing some research, check out that one in Nebraska. That once again was the Wheat Growers Hotel, Kimmel, Nebraska. Next up, we have a pub.
The Arrow Historic Hotel and Pub. The Arrow Historic Hotel and Pub in Broken Bow was built in 1928 and has become well known for its active and almost friendly hauntings. It's said that the former owner died in the hotel, but his spirit remains at his old post. He appears as a pleasant, middle-aged man and has been known to check guests in and even chat at great length.
And this goes back to what we spoke about a moment ago in the caretaker ghost. This is your classic caretaker. Takes care of the guests still, checks them in, conversates with them, definitely keeping the personality that he had in life, which once again fuels the theory that the soul, ghost, consciousness, all one and the same. But it is a quality of ghost we don't find very often. These are normally ones that are seen watching out the window and just generally overall watching the property and being friendly to those around. Definitely a welcoming ghost amongst most of them that we normally see, right?
Another ghost, who appears as an old man with gray hair, has been sighted wandering the halls silently, seemingly unaware of the living.
So not only do we have a caretaker ghost, we've also got what seems to be a stone tape incident here with the ghost that just is seen roaming, not interacting in any way, just roaming around the halls.
The most famous ghost here is that of a beautiful woman with red hair and a devious look on her face. As local legend goes, she is the ghost of a witch burned at a nearby cemetery. She's been known to flirt with unavailable male guests quite frequently, and her appearance is said to almost always signal some sort of mischief.
Have they not heard of the Bell Witch? Somebody needs to tell them about the Bell Witch. You don't mess with the witch, right? Definitely mischievous, to say the least. And I can tell you, I work in the hotel industry, and the one that runs my hotel actually just bought another one. They've been doing a lot of renovations on this other hotel, so I'm friends with one of the guys that's been doing the renovation, and him and I were talking the other day as I was telling another customer about my radio gig here, and he was mentioning that, oh, by the way, there's all kind of stuff that I hear when I work overnight in that other hotel. I was like, oh, really? He said, yeah, I hear footsteps all the time. I hear animals walking around. I hear people opening and shutting doors. I hear laughing and conversation on floors that I'm not on. Hear it in the stairwells and whatnot. He's the only person in the building. So apparently there's a large amount of activity within these hotels, even locally to my area. I'm going to try to do a case file study there if it is ever possible, though I doubt it will be, as it has become a functioning hotel now and really makes it hard to account for the variety of noises that there are. But let's see what's next on our list here in Nebraska. I do believe we have another college coming up. Is that right?
The University of Nebraska.
Yeah, I thought we had another university on the list here, ladies and gentlemen. University of Nebraska. That makes 2 for the state of Nebraska for those playing the home game.
The University of Nebraska in Lincoln was founded in 1869 and has grown in notoriety amongst paranormal researchers everywhere throughout recent years. The Temple building, which is used for a theater, is said to be haunted by the old department chairman. He's been known to turn lights on and off, make disembodied coughing noises, and even throw chairs.
Wow, definitely not what I expected from the chairman. I kind of thought we would have a caretaker ghost there again. Very interesting there. We've got more of a unhappy active ghost, it sounds like.
In Nyhart Hall, many have reported strange scraping noises, doors locking by themselves, and a sickly-looking apparition drifting silently at night. Lastly, Professor Hardy Jones took his own life by jumping from the 10th floor of Old Father Hall in 1983. His ghost is commonly seen reenacting his death scene, even causing several calls to the police from concerned citizens, thinking they were witnessing a suicide and not knowing it was from the other side.
You know, that's kind of funny. I mean, it's not, but it is to me kind of funny that the police keep getting these calls of this thing happening over and over, this stone tape event, as they watch this person jump to their death and basically disappear, right? Once again, very, very dangerous to not report something like that if you see it. But then again, we've got a whole lot of records now from the police of this activity going on, right? So kind of a double-edged sword.
Doane University.
And for those playing along at home, that is, of course, number 3 on the number of colleges haunted in the state of Nebraska. Definitely more than I expected to see on the list. How about you guys? Let's go ahead and check out what Dwayne University has got to offer.
Doane University in Crete was founded in 1872 and has built...
Okay, Doane University. Apparently I said that wrong. My apologies there, folks. Doane University has to offer
quite the reputation amongst both students and faculty for the numerous hauntings scattered across campus. In the basement of Gaylord Hall, which serves as the media department, blood-curdling screams and frightening voices have turned up in various recordings.
So this is already starting to sound like a negative-styled haunting here.
The library is said to be haunted by a woman in white. She has been sighted by students moving between the bookcases, even floating through the air. Many students report feeling her silent stare while alone amongst the books.
And aside from colleges, there's not a whole lot of haunted libraries that we find, right? I guess there's just not a lot of high traumatic, high emotional things going on amongst the stacks, right?
Lastly, the ghost of a little blonde girl has been sighted all across campus. She's commonly seen crying into her hands, and when approached by students wanting to help, is known to vanish into thin air.
So once again, we have a variety of hauntings here, from active to stone tape, another portal, if you will, of paranormal activity. It seems these colleges are all portals of paranormal activity of some type, regardless of how you classify it, right? And we have one more case file before we close out the state of Nebraska tonight, folks.
The Nebraska State Capitol Building. Construction of the Nebraska State Capitol Building in Lincoln started in 1922 and concluded a decade later. It has a terrifying reputation for some of the worst paranormal bad luck ever encountered. Throughout the years, a seemingly impossible number of accidents have led to multiple deaths on the premises. An inmate putting up Christmas lights had a heart attack while on the ladder and fell to his death. A man climbing the spiral staircase became dizzy, falling and later dying from his injuries.
Perhaps they all took a certain juice and it was messing with them. I'm just kidding. That's only a recent thing, isn't it? My bad.
One employee who was scared of heights got dizzy on the 12th floor and fell to her death. And these are just a few of the many accidents that have occurred here throughout the years. What makes this place such a magnet for disaster, you ask? Local legend tells the entire site was built over sacred Native American grounds and burial grounds. Many also report Native American apparitions in traditional garb, books found scattered across floors, objects moving on their own, doors and windows slamming shut, and the elevator acting as if it has a mind of its own.
And you don't build on burial grounds. You just don't do it. No wonder there's so many accidents that occur, especially if it's Native American burial grounds. Haven't they seen the movie Exorcist? One would think that was common sense, right? But in the end, ladies and gentlemen, all you can do is listen to the case files. Try to apply a little common sense and...
You be the judge!
That's right, boys. We got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den radio show for Thursday, January the 6th, 2022. Haha, I got it right every time, guys. I'm getting better at this thing. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you are on the edge of a reality, the edge of the galaxy, or even the edge of your seat, we're glad that you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, the den may be closing for the weekend now that we've got it kicked off right, but don't you worry, the weekend fun has only just begun. That's right. Tomorrow on Friday, January the 7th, 2022, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit comes back to the airwaves with an all-new episode of the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show. That's right. Tomorrow he's going to be talking about Consumer Electronics Show, the great CES that occurs every year in the state of Nevada. It makes you wonder what kind of inventions and creative things have come out of these last couple years of being locked in by ourselves, right? I can't wait to see the innovations that have occurred, and we're going to hear about all of it on Friday, January 7th, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central on the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show hosted by our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit, and he'll be back also on Saturday, January the 8th, 2022 to discuss mathematical errors. Mathematical errors have actually led to a lot of issues in math and science, and even the great Einstein himself wasn't perfect. They all make errors. Apparently, I can't even speak perfectly tonight, right? They all make errors, just like I, and he'll be discussing all of a good variety of those errors, I'm sure, on Saturday, January the 8th, 2022, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and then closing out the weekend right with you guys on Sunday, January the 9th, 2022, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Once again, all shows here on the network start at 7 p.m. Pacific. He'll be talking about backmasking. This is where you play a song backwards and listen to the actual words that come out of playing it like that. There's been a lot of work done on that for a lot longer than I've been alive, right? Apparently some of those earlier songs you could hear different, like The Devil's Coming, things like that in the music. Really cool stuff. We're going to be talking about that EJ will be talking about that on January the 9th, 2022, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. And that's going to round out the weekend right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Speaking of the Ripon Rabbit Hole, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you hop on over to the riponrabbithole.com. That is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. That's right. Over there, you're going to find a plethora of fun. Make sure you sign up for your Backstage Pass, which is going to give you access to all of the fun things that we have to offer, like the Down the Rabbit Hole section. That is our privatized special social media section over there, where we don't shadow ban, we don't censor, we don't act like those communist parties. They call themselves social media. We actually believe in free sharing of information over there. So come on over and drop down the rabbit hole and drop your information. We'd love to hear it. Share it with the rest of the rabbits. And you can also drop by the 24/7 Backstage Lounge, where I'm going to be right after the show, and I'd love to hang out with all of you guys. Also, on the main page, we always keep up-to-date information and news, and if you scroll down the main page, you're going to find a variety of recipes. I'm not sure if there's a recipe group over there. If not, there definitely should be. I believe we were sharing a couple recipes amongst the rabbits on Christmas for different dishes, so definitely go over and check out the Ripon Rabbit Hole for a variety of information and up-to-date news from our community-generated press. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and you've been listening to the Dark Wolf's Den radio show exclusively on Ripon Common Sense Radio Network, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. We will talk to you guys next Wednesday. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, remember, stay awake, but dare to dream. That's right. Good night, everybody. How? Yeah. That's right. That's right. It's that time once again. Let's go, Brandon.
Unlocked and into the dark.
FJB.
Some things are better left unknown.
Let's go, Brandon.
I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever.
The media wanted to try to label that as a terrorist wording, right? You know what I say to that? Let's go, Brandon. FJB.
Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner, is it in her?
So the next time somebody tells you that you need to show your vaccine pass, tell them they're a racist. They won't like that.
What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple?
Let's go, Brandon.
I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. FJB.
What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner, is it in her?
Yeah, I know where Biden lives, right? Lives in a wonderland of delusion. Brandon lives in a wonderland of delusion. Yeah, Biden lives in a wonderland of delusion.
Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion?
He's lost in a wonderland of delusion. Raider says Warner Brother Champion or Warner Brother Studios in Burbank. You know, that might be his second one. Definitely not the one we used to see, is it? in a wonderland of delusion. FJB, that's right. FYT, FJB, FGOV. Let's go, Brandon. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys are great. See you next time. I'm Jerry Hicks, the Dark Wolf. Till next time, folks. Good night. Check out the new book, Moon Madness, by first-time author J.W. Hicks. Originally conceived in 2015, this fictional novel only becomes more and more relevant by the day. What would you do if you found out that almost everything your government has told you was a lie? In the year 2103, Jeremy Carlson and his fiancée Brittany Parsons decide to take a vacation in a lunar cabin. Everything was going great until strange things started happening after they went to sleep. Are they being abducted, or are they catching moon madness? A strange phenomena thought to be caused by the lower gravity of the moon. After a fateful meeting with a guy named Zach Marshall, things become a whole lot more clear. They are now determined to expose the governing body of the Earth and Moon, known as the World Council. Will the three of them succeed, or will things go horribly wrong? Find out in the great novel, once again, by first-time author J.W. Hicks, called Moon Madness. Available now on Amazon, $12 for paperback, $7 for Kindle. Not adding this to your bookshelf would be madness.